welcome everybody to the next video. Today we are doing a book review. I know originally I said it would be a March review of what I've read and everything, but I've finished another book since the previous video. And that book would be The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So, this is a spoiler warning. I will be talking about some parts of the book in some detail if you have not read the book. So, I'm going to state this right off the bat. I originally did not like the book. I straight up didn't like it for the first half of the book. I was not expecting young President Snow to be the narrator's point of view, the perspective we're reading. I was like, why? I asked a lot of why at the beginning. I'm like, why are you choosing President Snow instead of Lucy Gray? Why are you choosing this character, and why are we getting only his thoughts, not any of the other characters' thoughts? I knew this was set back in the 10th, the 10th Hunger Games, so we are not getting Katniss, Peeta, Haymitch, and a bunch of other characters. But I did not realize we were going to be having the perspective of President Snow, which I did not like that at first. I never liked him in the original books. I think I said to my friend when I was first reading it, I'm not pro-Snow. I am pro-Rebellion. But when I further on to reading the book, I realized there was a point of why they made the narrator having the perspective of Snow in the book. And it makes so much sense. The reason why we get his perspective instead of Lucy Gray, which who was his mentee in the Hunger Games, is because of the ending. The ending legit answers a lot of my questions from the book. The most interesting question I had was still to me at the time, throughout the book, why are we doing this? Why are we having him? It's because we get his backstory. We get his reasons why he hates the rebels, why he hates District 12 in particular. It is giving us his personality, not like the original books where we don't get the why does he hate the rebels, why is he against so much of the rebels. It is because of his relationship with Lucy Gray. And Lucy Gray, throughout the book, did not know his decisions, what he has done. She only knew just bare minimum as a mentee and his lover. And I'm just oh, especially when we'll get to one of the songs in a bit, but it is because of what happens to Cornelius Snow throughout the book. His best friend was in the book. Tungus is a rebel. His friend, he does so much for his friends, and you just realize, oh my gosh, this makes sense. His friend was a rebel. Someone just did so much just to lose it all in the end. Cornelius Snow was more for his family, for his friends. He a lot of his decision making throughout the book made a lot of sense at his age. Like, the decision for what he did in the arena, saving his friend, but you also have to think it back. Oh, why? You see the adults disagree with him. You see some of the adults just not getting why he's doing this. You see a character hate him because of what his father did. You see so much, but you don't know why the adults hate him, but his friends and his family, who he doesn't even live with his parents. He lives with his grandma and his cousin. And it's just, he was worried about them. He sent them money. He wrote to his cousin, Tigress. And it's just interesting. I very much went into thinking I won't like this book because of the point of view. It is so much more than why they did. My friend reminded me, Suzanne Collins does not write, because they need to do an update or anything. It's a few years in between this book and in The Sunrise and the Reaping when they wrote it. And they said to me, Suzanne Collins doesn't write for the sake of needing to write a book. The Hunger Games is such a great series. I love that series. I still do. But to write a message. And if you think about what's been going on in the world, you understand why this is being written. It brings up a lot of points that happens in the real world, and just this perspective of Cornelius Snow makes so much sense. But it is something I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not think about it as like trying to send a message. It's like you see his hatred grow so much for either rebellion, but also for the adults, because at first he did not like the Hunger Games. He pretty much was doing the Hunger Games for the fact that yes, I'm doing a long rant because this book is interesting. I'm having you set the review for like what the star rating is, but he pretty much turns sides near the end because of something that happens. And I'm just like, oh, but he grows. I love his character development. It's like, oh, he's a lovable character. Like, oh. He's forced, after winning the games with his mentee, to become a peacekeeper. And he goes to District 12. He's a capital boy. This is like his first time in the districts, I believe. And the hatred. He watched so many people die there because of simple actions, because of the rebels. But the rebels do bring up a lot of good points. And as a reader who has read both the original series, it's been many years, to reading this book, it gives me light of what happened to Snow then that made his decisions later on. I'm not saying it's like, oh, this is a great idea, but it makes sense to see where he came from to now, like back in those books. I still have not seen the movie, but I did mention I want to talk about one of the songs. And that song is The Hanging Tree. And I agree with Snow about one thing. He doesn't know the Who. He doesn't know so many of the different things that Lucy Gray wrote for that song, which is like an anthem. I still love listening to that song to this day, but it makes sense. It makes so much sense of the words of the first verse, which is, to let everyone know, is the are you coming to the tree where they hung up a man who say they murdered 3. For YouTube's sake, this is just explaining why, but a character in the book dies because they did something to another 3 characters, and the guy that was killed was pretty much a rebel who was just saving his friends and his family. And it's just, each verse has a message inside the song. Like most songs, there's a message behind some of the songs. For example, yes, I'm very musically inclined, is Zombies by the Cranberries. That song is about IRA and Irish and like the whole war back in those days and the killings of people. Hanging Tree is just explaining the capital versus the rebels. And with the message of the songs, the word choices, and everything, it made me realize the thing that I talked about earlier. There's always a message behind the words. And another verse is a dead man called out for his love to flee. Is from another scene where the man who was killed for his actions of killing 3 tells his lover to go. His final words were, "Run, Lil, run, run, run." It was telling his lover to go. We know that the rebels get, throughout the books, are being hunted down. The Hunger Games are a punishment for the actions of the rebels in the Dark Days. I can't find the post on TikTok, but I saw a post on there that was talking about the original trilogy and the next 2 books. Original trilogy. First book is a regular Hunger Games. Second book is the Quarter Quell. And the third book is the Rebellion. So the original book, it is the 74th Hunger Games, the book title. Second book, Catching Fire, is the Quarter Quell, the 75th, where It is because every 25 years is a quarter quell. The third book is the New Rebellion War. It is like, oh, the first book in the new trilogy, if this is going to be a trilogy, is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That is the 10th Hunger Games. Second book in the trilogy is The Sunrise on the Reaping, which I have started reading, and I like that book. And what I saw on the person's post was the third book, if Suzanne Collins does write a third book, should be The Dark Days Rebellion. I find it very interesting, especially since we get someone who was very much around or had parents that were in the war fight, but we get to see the impacts it has on the early in life. The 50th, getting punished, sending 4 people. But I want to know the whole story behind the Dark Days Rebellion. I'm hoping that does happen. But I do find it interesting, this whole book series. I've always loved it. But now on to what I rate this book. It is a 4 out of 5. I have never DNF'd a book, but I'm glad I didn't because it was such a good book and character development and everything. We get the why, we get the how, and we get why he hates a lot of the things that District 12 and the Rebels have done because of what happened when he was just a mentor in the 10th Hunger Games. Also, it's very interesting what the original, what the Hunger Games were like back then. But thank you guys again. Thank you for listening to my rant if you're here at the end of the video. I like to rant about books I like, and I legit, the day of recording this is March 28th. I finished the day before, on March 27th. Started the next book. I've been loving it. But thank you again. Follow me on my social medias, which is Stoppy's Bookshelf on Instagram, Stoppy Bookshelf on Tome. I do post a lot of yaps and everything, but yeah, been loving everything. I'm happy this is a much longer review video because of my whole rant about the book. But thank you guys again. See you next time. Peace out.